today I'm going to show you how to propagate basil, so stay tuned. This is a great way to deal with a really overgrown basil plant that's just getting completely out of control. If you're like me, you probably don't have space for a 3-foot basil plant in your house anywhere, especially since we focus on small space gardening here on this channel. So I'm gonna show you how to cut this bad boy down, get them back under control, and you're gonna end up with some nice smaller plants that you can repot to add to the collection or make some gifts to give away to friends and family. Okay, so this is actually really simple. And you can see I've actually already done it to this plant. So if anybody is afraid and worried that they're gonna kill their basil plant, I promise you won't. See how this branch is very tall and this one is much shorter. I've already done this process to this section of the plant. So basically where you cut it just becomes the new top of the plant and it grows new leaves just fine. Everything's healthy, so don't be scared. We can do it together. It's really easy. So all you're gonna do is figure out how tall you want this plant to be. So I've already made a decision on this section, and I think this is a good size for a pot like this that's living on my windowsill. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find a point that's above a section of leaves. You don't wanna cut it like in the middle of a stem and then just leave like a random half a stem sticking up. So you definitely wanna cut right above one of the sections of leaves. So I think right here looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and make our cut. So you're just gonna do this right above a section of leaves and leave as little stem as possible. And that's it. So now you have this section of basil, which is going to become a new plant. And you have a nice clean top section where new leaves are gonna grow in, and it's gonna look just like this one over here with baby leaves coming in pretty soon. So I have another section that's too tall here. So I'm just gonna repeat the same process here. I'm finding the section right above the height of the plant that I want, and I'm trimming as close to the end of the stem as possible, leaving just the tops of these leaves and no stem. So I have these two sections of plants. You want to get this thing down to just the stem. You're going to put this in a glass of water and it's going to grow roots. So all of these leaves coming in contact with the water, they're just going to start decaying and get really gross. So what we're going to do is just snip off any remaining leaves all the way up. And we're gonna leave it just a top section. Even some of these bigger leaves can probably go, honestly. Let's get these off of there. So I know it seems like a lot and you're left with nothing, but this gives the plant the best chance to focus on growing new roots and becoming a big, strong, healthy plant. So we're gonna do the same thing to the other stem that we cut. So let's get all of these extra leaves off of here. We'll get these big ones off the top. Okay, so here's what you got. And now all we're gonna do is put it in a glass of water. There it goes. Pretty soon, what you're gonna have, and if you want, you can buy some little propagation buddies. These help hold your little stems up so they can sit upright in the glass of water. But basically, pretty soon what you're gonna have is all of these roots. These babies are pretty much ready to be repotted. So I'll probably do that next. This is gonna go on the windowsill in a nice little happy spot. I'm picking my kitchen windowsill, which is too small to really grow anything else, and we don't wanna waste any wonderful sunny window spots, so that's where that's gonna go. And now we have all these basil leaves. So I recommend doing this when you're ready to use some basil. If you're anything like me, you probably are growing more basil than you can possibly use. So I'm gonna show you some recipes next of how I like to use up some of these basil leaves, especially when I've just done a cutting and I have a reasonable amount. I'm not gonna make pesto out of this size, but I have some other fun ways to use it. So let's check it out. Okay, so for this recipe, you will need, of course, some eggs, some tomatoes. I like to use little grape tomatoes. I find that they soften up a little better than chopping up a whole tomato, but if that's all you have, I'm sure that'll work fine. A nice bottle of olive oil and some salt and pepper. That's it. It's super simple. So let's get this pan heated up. Let's get some olive oil in the pan. Put these tomatoes in there. It's up to you if you like to add milk or not. Ew. And add a little salt and pepper in here. Make sure you let your tomatoes get nice and juicy before you pour the eggs in. Okay, so these eggs are gonna cook pretty quick because the pan was nice and hot. So I'm just going to let them slowly start to scramble. Okay, so these eggs are just about scrambled. So I'm going to just break up my basil leaves, mix that in a little bit, let that get happy with the tomatoes and the eggs. So I'm gonna get this heat off. As a last step is my cheese. So you're gonna want a cheese that really almost just kind of disappears into the dish. So this is a cochita cheese, which is like a Mexican cheese they put on tacos a lot. You could also use goat cheese or feta, but I like a nice delicate cheese that just kind of melts and disappears into the dish. So that way really the tomato and the basil are the star of the show. And I don't know about you, but my breakfast is not complete without a nice hunk of bread. Just grill that up in the skillet. So good. And now we have a reasonably sized basil plant that can go back on our windowsill. And we have new plants. Don't you love new plants? I know I do. Did you know that basil actually makes really great tea? You can really smell this going. Oh my God. It's so fresh. If you like basil, you're gonna love this. So we're gonna let this steep for about 10 minutes. If you're gonna add honey or any kind of sweetener, you're gonna wanna do that while the water is hot so it can mix into the solution. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes now, so I'm gonna go ahead and strain my tea leaves. I'm going to give this a little bit of time to cool down, and I'm gonna enjoy it as iced tea throughout the week. But I would be remiss if I didn't taste test a little bit for you guys. So, it is quite nice warm actually. I don't usually drink it like this, but I'm just doing this for you guys. It's very light. It has a basil flavor, but it's not over the top. Personally, I usually think of basil in more savory dishes. So because we added our sweetener, it definitely doesn't read as savory. I would say it reads as herbal with a hint of sweetness. Definitely not overly sweet. It's just really light and refreshing. And the last basil idea I have for you is to make some fresh basil lemonade. To your blender, you're going to add about a half a cup of basil leaves. So you just want the leaves, cut up any stems or anything like that. Get those in there. You are going to add about 3 cups of water. And you're going to do the juice of 1 lemon. Make sure you get all the juice out. Don't want to miss any lemony goodness. From there, I like to add about a half a cup of sugar. You can sweeten to taste, maybe go a little lighter and add more as you go along if you find that it's not sweet enough. For me, this is the perfect amount of sugar. And then a little bit of ice to just kind of make it slushy. This is really making me wish it was summer because this is so delightful on a hot summer day. So you're gonna blend on high until everything is mixed really well. It's gonna look green. It's almost gonna look like a green drink instead of a lemonade. But when you taste it, it's gonna have that sweet, delicious lemonade taste. So you can give it a minute to kind of settle down. You will notice some foam on the top. Some people like to strain this off. To me personally, it doesn't bother me, but you know, whatever your preference is, strain or don't, it's up to you. Looks like ectoplasm. When I'm serving this to guests at a summer barbecue, I like to add a little lemon wedge just to be a little fancy. It's basil, it's lemonade, it's sweet. Add a little vodka to this and you're gonna really be a business. Oh my God, you guys, you have to try this one. I'm not even kidding. Where's my vodka? The perfect complement for the botanical flavors in the basil turned out to be a botanical gin. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't give honorable mention to the humble yet elegant caprese salad with juicy stacks of mozzarella and tomato topped with fragrant basil. I like mine with a little bit of cracked salt and pepper. If you can find fresh burrata, it's so much creamier and more delicious than regular mozzarella. I highly recommend it. Balsamic reduction adds a really sweet flavor to this dish. Reduction is cooked down until you end up with a very sweet glaze. If you can't find it, regular balsamic will do, but the reduction adds a sweet flavor that regular balsamic just can't match. Drizzle your balsamic all over your caprese salad, and then you're gonna finish with a drizzle of olive oil. Isn't that delicious? All right, guys, I hope I've given you a couple of fun new ways to use up all of that awesome basil. I hope you're growing. That's it for me today, and I hope to see you in the next one. Happy gardening.